Welcome to episode 4 of the East Coast, Northeast Cannabis Podcast. That is what we're rocking out here. We got Noah. Honestly, I don't even want to do the spiel. Noah's like us doing some super engaging shit in a place that I have very close to my heart, which is Vermont. And I'm excited because you're the first person on this podcast I have gotten to talk to that is not tri-state. Man, what's going on, Noah? How are you doing? I guess the first question is, what are you smoking?
Oh yeah, I'm actually smoking a 1-to-1 CBD THC pre-roll. Nice for the daytime.
Grown by yourself?
Yeah, grown with our CBD and some outdoor from last year. Yeah,
Hella cool. Yeah, I'm smoking on some I believe melon shade. So I think it's a cross of shady apples and melonade. A little tasty, a little fruit. I want to go to sleep, so we're in the reverse moment here, but so excited to be here with you for real. I honestly let's talk about let's talk about it, man. What's Zenbarn Farms? What are you now?
Yeah,
What are you gonna be?
absolutely. So we started Zenbarn. That's like the home of what we started was literally this old dairy barn that used to be a restaurant that I grew up. It was my first job. And I grew up in Vermont, and we used to walk over there and wash dishes. It's actually the first place. That's where I learned to smoke weed, back washing dishes. And some of the line cooks would give me some weed to try. They'd make me up some like ganja food. It's where I literally first got introduced to cannabis.
How old?
And when I was like 14.
Oh, okay. I was earlier, but so I would just double check. Okay, cool. And we're Waterbury, Vermont, right?
Waterbury, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took over, about six years ago. My brother moved back here to our hometown, and I was back here already with my family. I had moved back here with my wife, and this place was up for auction, and so we jumped into it and like renovated and tore apart this old dairy barn that was a restaurant and turned it into this community space. There was a wellness studio upstairs where my wife Marlena ran a yoga studio, and then downstairs we turned it into a restaurant and music venue, and then we had like some lodging in the top part that used to be the chef's home. So we turned it into this space where we just
time. Seems like a long time, right? How long has that been?
Yeah, so we've been doing that for 6 years now. We just had our 6th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
And and so like that whole thing, it just was this community effort. We had everybody in town, like everybody who could swing a hammer was in there, helping build this thing. So it really organically grew. And then along the way, they legalized hemp, and we've all been big fans of cannabis, like for a long time. And we have a little farm next door. We were growing veggies for the restaurant, and then, wow, we could grow hemp. So it's like, we just started growing hemp and putting hemp, CBD food and beverage items on the menu, and just for fun.
Was this right after the Farm Bill scenario?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Pretty much.
So
I forget what year that was, but
yeah, me too. But okay. So just for our, for people who end up watching this for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, that kind of took off. Like we started to do these really nice, like CBD cocktails. We were the first place in Vermont to start doing that. We had to call like Department of Liquor Control, say, hey, is this legal? We want to start doing this. Like, well, it's like, we can't.
It's not illegal.
Anything about it. So, so they just started let us do it, and people loved it, and they started to do, like, a lot of people came in, they just started to ask for just CBD, like, instead of alcohol. And that was really cool for us to see that we could have a venue, throw big shows, and people are like, oh, I just want the CBD drinks. And so we started to do that more and more. And it was just a really nice addition to a music and venue and a community space, and the yoga upstairs.
Did you have a name for the CBD drinks at this point?
No, it was just like we had Zenbarn. That was the thing. We had our
it was just Zenbarn, and that's just special. I got
mocktails and and then basically what happened was, along the way, like about just before COVID hit, like 3 years ago, we had a retail space open up around the corner that was a failed CBD store, basically. And we were like, man, we could do that. We could do it better. We just jumped in there, took over his lease, and we started a line of CBD products and a retail store. And And then we were thinking, all right, we know Vermont's going to legalize eventually. And then we also, like, along the way, we were just pushing as much as we could, to build the community around cannabis, bring people together, and like push for legalization. So we had a bunch of events just to like raise awareness, advocate, for full legalization. And, that's where we are today, just about on the cusp.
Well, it seems like you're a little bit further than that, or closer than that rather. So, you've got a little bit further along than I think you're letting on. So the machinations, the idea, the 360 or sorry, 30,000 foot view is, I believe you're going to open a dispensary that's going to be, where's that going to be?
That's right in Waterbury. So like our venue, like everyone knows, Ben and Jerry's is like the famous spot right here in Waterbury. We became famous for that.
Was it the original or just the biggest?
Well, it's like the factory now. Like the original was
I've been there. Oh, the
Yeah.
original's Burlington. That one's Waterbury. Okay, got it.
But this is like the hallmark, like tourist destination, because you get like the tours of the factory, see how they make the ice cream and all that.
Floor, all of it. Yeah, it's epic.
Yeah, so we're right just past there, like headed up towards Stowe, Vermont. Like we have, our venue, and then just next door to that we have our future dispensary, current CBD store, and we're building that out now, planning to open. I mean, we're operational with the CBD and other compliant cannabis products, and then we'll open fully. Plan is for October 1st.
Wow. So I want to be there. I want to invite, but no, for real though, like this is exciting as hell to me because again, I did do a year of school there. Vermont's close to my heart. I was in Stowe actually. I ski more Killington. I mean, Noah was out of the way. Stowe's way better. So honestly, I think there's something real cool and magical to this because it's a great juxtaposition for episode 4. It dovetails well, and it is a good contrast to really remind people that the East Coast, whatever you want to call it, it is a much bigger than just New York, and it is and even to that, New England itself, which would encompass, I guess, what Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Is that it? No.
Yeah, I mean, you got like, I don't know exactly.
Yeah. But my point being, it's really it's important. I think it's important, and I like to empower other people who either are in the industry or want to be, that like wherever they are. Oh, I want to be in it, but I live in wherever in Tennessee or Vermont, and I got to go to Cali to do it. This is why I like to do the East Coast stuff, because I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I have roots in this coast, and I think it's really exciting when people with your team's not just track record of being able to run a business and like sustain. It's exciting when someone of your caliber of a person is like actually going to have a win. And I'll tell you, I know you know this. Right next to the Ben and Jerry's store is probably the definition of a win for a dispensary. Right. If you catch my drift, so that's really exciting. That's wow. Congratulations. So October 1st is really coming up. What's this, what are you thinking in terms of your offerings for, the community?
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is like everything we do is a community driven approach to business. So like we build, like, I think what we do in business is to build community, and it's not really like this, especially with cannabis. So what we're trying to do is really work with the farmers out here, because it all starts with the plant, and the plant grows, and it tells us what to do. So we're really trying to listen and
makes the rules.
Yeah. So, I don't know yet because we haven't harvested yet. Like a lot of these businesses, I hear people talking about, all the different products they're going to have. And I'm okay, well, we'll see what comes out the fields this year, because
for sure,
what we want to do, like, just like we do in our restaurants, farm to table, fresh, good, high quality food. We're going to do the same thing with cannabis and have, this farm to pipe cannabis. So we're going to have like just beautiful, grown, organically grown, and well beyond that, beautiful, like well taken care of cannabis from Vermont farmers who've been doing this for a long time. And I would put some of our
Legacy farm, if you would be
farmers.
able to say.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
working with the legacy. I mean, we're working with our traditional Vermont farmers to empower them. We want them to stay in the industry here. I know across the country they haven't always been able to stay in this, the legal industry, but we're doing it a little differently here. We're really focusing on small farmers and bringing them in.
I'd say they get pushed out of both. I'd say it's on meaning when I say that, I mean, there's a reality to markets are markets fluctuate, but markets are also made. And I guess I mean, and regardless of if it's markets and price points or going legal or wherever it is, usually tends to be that the odds are stacked against the smaller legacy grower. And again, to my definition for the audience is that legacy grower, legacy cultivate, whatever you want to call them. There's someone who grew or in Jake's take, grew or sold weed before weed was technically legal in their state. That's just my interp. So like I'm interested though in like, is that a scary place to be? I mean, are you pretty like where are you at in your heart, in your plants? Like, you pretty confident that they're gas or like?
Yeah, I think so what's kind of unique about Vermont is that Vermont has issued licenses only to small scale farmers and prioritized, people micro 1,000 square foot grows. That's the vast majority are going to be almost every single grow is going to be under 5,000 square feet. So, and
amen to good job, Vermont. What the hell? Wow.
It's unique across the country. And I think what we're going to see is the kind of cannabis that you're not going to find anywhere across the country. I mean, the kind of quality, I mean, we all know like what you grow in your like little tent in your basement, like you can never scale that up to 100,000 square feet. It's just, there's too much care and love that goes into that. But like, can you scale up to 1,000, 5,000 square feet and still have an incredible product?
Yeah. And I think that one thing I want to actually ask you then is, so the growing season, this is one thing I've never touched on, which is that greenhouse, which I do believe is the future. When I say that, I mean, from, when I speak to like, not necessarily what I want to smoke, I don't ever speak to like anything personal. I'm making like just purely like market calls. I think greenhouse is the only way. I'm sorry, I'll rephrase. The only winners in the future will be on a scale. Of course, there'll be craft, but that will take a while to evolve. Will be greenhouse. I know New Jersey has regulated against even using high pressure sodium lights. One, I understand that, but more importantly, for some sort of odor mitigation. I mean, and I'm saying some sort of like it's silly. It might not. I mean, Vermont is a different type of state than than New Jersey. They're both right to farm states, I believe, but as you and I well know, there's some space. So the legislating of greenhouses has been like an interesting thing, like making that the case. What I'm curious about is, are there existing MSOs in Vermont? Because that will be grandfathered in.
Yeah, but they're not. There are a couple, but they are. I don't think they're like particularly seeing a huge opportunity in Vermont. So we don't see a ton of activity from the MSOs here because you're only allowed one license of each type. So you could have one retail store, one grow, one manufacturing. Plus,
yeah,
they're only giving out, the largest license I've seen so far is like 5,000 square foot licensed. So, yeah, they're here, but I think they're much more excited to go into New Jersey, Connecticut, New York right now. And so it's like,
but it's a race to the bottom. I'd be more excited to go to Vermont. I'm being like, honestly, like this is the first time I'm thinking about it from someone who reads the 180 pages. Like, I mean, like, okay. I remembered what I was going to mention was the growing season. That's why I brought up greenhouse. We're on the East Coast. People talk to me all the time, like, oh, you shouldn't use lights. Everyone should grow, just use the natural sun. Well, not all of the states and places in the world that need the plant medicine, that enjoy, rec weed, get high, whatever. It's not necessarily like to say, oh, well, just like grow it out in the sun. That's one problem I have is people need to understand we have seasons. And we, you know what I mean? Like we have a scenario where in about when, let's say, when do you think I'll be harvesting my plants? This isn't a trick question. So like, it's getting up there. I was thinking about this August, September, October, probably no later than October or something, because there'll be snow on the ground potentially.
Right.
That's not something that a lot of people have to deal with. I'm sorry, it's something many growers have to deal with. It's not something the West Coast community, which kind of becomes the appearance, of the entire representation of the entire market, has to deal with. So I'm curious, are you running, if you can't tell me, that's fine. Are you running, greenhouse, depths?
Well, so we're not growing this, we're our first phase. Yeah. So we're not personally growing this phase of our rollout. We're really decided to focus on the retail side.
I was going to say, you can't have both. I would think that's a great move. I'd rather have a
Yeah.
retailer grow right now, for sure.
Yeah, but we are very close, and we're working closely with farmers, and yeah, there's it's been tough because they rolled out the licensing.
It's the same situation though. I'm not to interrupt. Like, so I'm curious. Is a lot of bud grown in greenhouses in Vermont, or not really?
Yeah, there is, but like the licensing came out basically like July,
Yeah.
so it did kind of like some people, they anticipated the license and they set up properly. But I think everyone's kind of scrambling this year, so it's real big, like up in the air, like how much product are we really going to have for this kickstart of the market. And I think we're going to probably be everyone's kind of unsure. People were pushing, and there's a lot of greenhouse grows, a lot of outdoor grows, but at the same time, like not what it probably could have been if we got the licensing out a little earlier. So,
well, no, for sure. And I apologize because I need to actually, probably do that tonight. I need to, just for the light reading, I'm very interested in going through. So they published them finalized. They're voted on and they're good. Like, meaning like, okay.
the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that is because, I don't know, how do I phrase it? So they're like, meaning they can't pull a Prop 64 and say, oh, at the very last minute, actually the night of after a vote, you said, oh yeah, it's going to be limited licenses to 5,000 square feet, but guess what? You can buy as many as you want. Meaning
Right.
that changes the dialogue entirely. So, essentially you're saying you're pretty well, you guys think it's going to work out in terms of, you're prepared, I suppose is a better term.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see like any major changes like in the near term. The legislative session will start again. There may be some modifications, but I think, Vermont is a very rural, small state.
So I was gonna say, it's tiny. To the Californians who will watch this, like a trillion Vermonts fit in. Like, your state is huge, California. Like, for real, get smaller. Like, no. So like, yeah, I mean, you can. I remember driving to the liquor store and I would just it was 5 minutes away in college, and I'd go pick up beer with the boys, and it was like 5 minutes down the road, I was in Vermont, and then I was in New York, and then I was in Vermont. It's like it's so tiny. Yeah, that's interesting. How many dispensary licenses?
There's no limit. The limiting factor is towns have to opt in.
Opt in or opt out. Yep.
And then it's like, it's kind of real estate, and so it's not so hard to get a license in Vermont. I think what's unique about Vermont is you got to fit to the community here and be in the right place and have the community ties. Like, Vermont's kind of a independent kind of spot. Like, we don't really do, like, Stowe is the one town I've ever heard of in my life where McDonald's shut down because they didn't get enough business. Like,
oh yeah, no, that people should get that. So like Stowe, Vermont, for instance, is like, that's wealth, to say the least. Yeah,
but like, it's not a place where like big commercial entities tend to do very well. It's like people like to shop local here. They like craft and small scale and like direct farm relationships. So I think that's the kind of vibe that's going to do well in Vermont. So I'm not really worried about like big corporate entities coming into Vermont, because I don't think they're going to compete well with like.
I could literally, I agree with you entirely on that. One thing I do think is interesting though is that if I have a greenhouse in Vermont, 5,000 square feet, 10, whatever, I can pump 4 seasons out of that.
Right.
Just a thought from a market perspective, And when I say pump, I mean that in like I want, let's say, Waterbury has how many people, or even the state of Vermont? Do we have any idea? No
Like
worries.
650,000, I think.
Okay. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So, are there any factors in metrics? Something what do you have a hypothesis for how much weed will be smoked there? Because is home grow legal?
Yeah, you can home grow. So, it's, I don't know, there's some state studies and some info out there, but it's really hard to say. A lot of it is going to be like tourism driven for sure.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure, which is great because you're right next to Ben and Jerry's.
right. So, yeah, I mean, I think, our whole thing is like, let's create a real Vermont like cannabis experience. People can come in and just like be wowed by what we're growing, what we're producing for products, and just like see the whole vibe of why Vermont is special, which is why they come here for all over the world for like craft beer and like maple
Oh,
syrup,
Otter Creek
teas, and
Brewery, I
all that.
remember. Yeah, hell yeah. No, that's actually incredible, and I'm not kidding. I would love to be there on October 1st. I think that's
Yeah,
like, especially because how you describe it. It's not just a dispensary in Vermont, which is cool enough, or in Waterbury, which is cool. I mean, it's an experience. It's a real deep, like not a deep dive. It's the wrong word. It's immersive. It's not something that's just like I love. Am I catching that correctly?
Yeah, so I mean, our model is pretty unique because we actually have like three entities. They all work together. So we have our music venue. We really believe artists and music and cannabis are matched, and they've done a lot of the work to get people even aware that this plant exists. So we've
Hell
actually
yeah.
just been rolling out a series of reggae shows to like lead us up to our opening, and
Where
then
can
so we
people
have
find info on that really quick? Where can people
that's
go?
zenbarnvt.com, and that's our music. Yeah.
Zenbarnbt.com.
Yeah, so like that's an element that's connected to this cannabis business, and then we also have a nonprofit initiative that we're doing where we're bringing in, we're doing a job training and workforce development program, and then we're going to have this immersive kind of cannabis exhibit in the space that you walk through before you go in the dispensary, run by these interns and trainees. Coming from the BIPOC community. So we're trying to make Vermont really a place where people can come to learn and get into the industry and go out and get good jobs or start their own businesses. So we
Oh, I
launched a
love
whole
that.
nonprofit around that as
Well,
well.
it's the educational element. It's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to be a real hub for the industry and show what Vermont can do, like for both like high quality, sustainable product, but also like social equity. We believe this plant wants us humans to be better too. Like we can work better together. We can create more equality and like justice in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't like to say it's like this industry starting. It's like the continuation of a movement to create a more just world and healthy world. And yeah.
Well, I think what you're so I don't think anyone would disagree with that in any way, shape, or form, regardless of their opinion on the effectiveness of social equity licensing as it's been carried out throughout these states. Meaning, you know, everyone who understands the concept understands that it's not all it's cracked up to be. So what I love about what you're proposing is, or what Zenbar is encompassing, is the fact that that's the thing a lot of people who deserve the chance don't lack, that that turns into a failure. And that, I believe, is on the wrong of the regulators, is that if you're facilitating failure, in other words, meaning you're doing the opposite from what I understand, from how I'm taking it, correct me if I'm wrong, which is super exciting. Like, you're arming people who otherwise would not. Just like, why would I know how to do change? Like I was gonna say change my oil, but I embarrassingly just don't know how. But you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I know how to do something until I was shown, taught? Financial literacy, all of this stuff. I'm not saying that's exactly where you're going, but education in general, knowledge is power. I mean, so I have kudos on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're very committed to that, and we think that it's so. We started the initiative is called the Cannabis Generation, to build the next generation of cannabis, entrepreneurs, and getting. We really think Vermont's like 99% like white. It's the second whitest state in
Oh,
the
hell yeah, it's super white.
country.
Yeah.
But we have a history of like doing some really interesting things. So what we believe we can do, like for the industry as a whole, is like we can be a home for like bringing people from all over the country here to train and learn like craft cannabis from seed to sale, and then we can send people out. Hopefully they come and move here because we need some more good talented people to move here, but also we can send people around the country to work and to develop their businesses, and we can be a home, like a place to retreat to, but also a place to like build connection with. The Vermont is a beautiful place, and not a lot of people. We can make a big impact here. Like we can go talk to like legislators and control
We're
board
knocking on
members.
Bernie's door. I'll call him right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
But in all seriousness, I think that's epically cool, and I want to. It's like so part of whether or not I was asked by Arma to do this aspect. I always drive it home because it's important to me. Is like I like to give people some insight. It's no insight. It's very hard to give advice. You can't write a book on how to get a job in cannabis, right? But so many people want to. So I always like to, and I come from an editorial background. So like I always had an issue with like top 10 lists that only included flower. This is going somewhere. Trust me. So like, essentially that insinuates subconsciously or very consciously to people who are interested in weed, I dare I say love it, that cultivation is the only avenue. So I'm not a cultivator. I'm a consultant. I'm a networker. I go where I'm needed and I connect people in other scenarios. Oh, okay, you need. So what I'm getting at is that that's really where it's about. You don't, and I think that's where your head is, which is cool. And like a hub, I'd say a hub is a great, that's the way to start. But I think the idea is great enough that you could take it to be a satellite. Like a series of them. For
Yeah,
real,
for sure.
that's awesome.
And we're
Maybe
building connections with similar. There's people doing this. It's not like we're alone here.
I
So
was
like
just
we
gonna,
want
yeah,
to build that
okay,
network. Like we
for
want to
sure.
like also like work with folks around the country.
Is it anything like what they're doing in Humboldt with the cookies campus, just in terms of like that's more hands-on cultivation, which is why I had brought up the difference.
Yeah, I think it seems like a similar mission and like
Yeah.
concept, and obviously like much bigger company, and maybe different needs. But like I think we're at this brand new start of an industry right here. Like there's a moment we feel like we can bring people in for those kind of like startup, to place them in startups that could be successful, and then that's how we can create generational wealth, is to get good people connected with companies. It's tough to just say, all right, let's give someone a license, they're going to go start a business from scratch. It's really, really hard. So like
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, exactly, for sure. It's almost like intended failure. It's almost like,
yeah,
it's not like I have a trouble believing that people who've gotten themselves to a high enough position in government are simply ignorant or not astute to the fact that one needs to know how to run a company and be given the tools to do that. So I think I don't believe that that's something that is really sexy to bigger companies, because they're a lot of times very tone deaf, meaning like I think a very what you're planning is very synchronistic, and the reason I'm really harping on the education aspect and not the products is because, again, that this is why we do it. It's a trial by fire. It's like a clay on the table scenario, right?
yeah, and also like I'm confident that we're going to have really good people that are going to be in high demand around here. So like, and also like that'll create the kind of experience statewide. Like it's like a rising tide for everybody. If we can have well-educated like bud tenders and cannabis guides in our stores who can actually like talk about the product and really help people select something that's going to be good for them, we can grow the market for cannabis too. Which I think is really critical. It's not just like some people come in, they know about it. Some people are coming in, they never even tried cannabis before. So we really want to educate.
That's super interesting. And it's actually, it's funny because people often will make the, make the assumption apprehensively that, like, oh, if you don't me put it this way. The black market or something, it's not the only, like that's where everyone's getting pushed because of the prices in California and the taxes, taxes on taxes on taxes on the consumer as well. Like the cultivation taxes, atrocious, etc. But I will be fair, I will be frank with the world. The reason we're not buying weed in dispensaries is because you tax it too much. So what I'm getting at here is like, that's a global, a national problem. It's definitely global, but it's a national problem. And, we're all kind of seeing it, and the price of cannabis is collapsing. And this isn't even playing devil's advocate, because I frankly think Waterbury is the type of town that has the people who want and need what you just suggest, explained.
Yeah.
Like not everyone is like me, where they're trying to smoke a hash hole every 40 minutes. So
yeah, we want to meet everyone where they're at and provide good quality product.
But from a business feasibility perspective is where I want to get your answer. Meaning, like that's why people are losing money in California and states like like that's why.
Yeah. And I think I do think that a lot of people are going to stick with the underground market.
The traditional, we like to call it
the traditional market. Yeah, because people still are going to be able to get their cannabis directly from growers, and that's going to continue. The only way we're going to really get rid of that is by a lot less taxes and regulation. But there's a lot of people that don't have those connections or don't feel comfortable in that space.
Well, yeah, and I was just to clarify, rarely is it the guy going to the growers, the plugs. So you know what I mean? Like essentially, I guess I'm getting at like I want Vermont to pop off. And I think it totally can. And as you said, it's gorgeous. It's all of these things. It's just being in, the industry as hard as as in the cut. It's sometimes a little daunting and a little heartbreaking in a lot of scenarios. Not heartbreaking like anyone, got necessarily screwed over, but it's like you put your life and time into it. It's always, regardless if it's cannabis or crackers, it's something that is like, it's your baby. So I've seen, and we've all been watching, businesses struggle and not take the risks and like you're doing it, to move forward and to do all that because of it's like I can't afford to buy that ounce for $450 plus tax at the dispensary type of scenario. So I guess I more mean like is Vermont a better, I think I answered my own question. Vermont's a better fit for this one-on-one community style scenario. Do you agree? Than most states, I mean.
Yeah, I think so, but I think the rest of the country is wanting it too. We're getting so disconnected from everything, from our food to our cannabis to so there's a reason people flock to Vermont for incredible craft beer that's made by someone they can understand. And I think that's going to continue. And I just think that's why I think the Vermont brands have done very well nationally too, that really do this well, that create a real connection to the farm and high quality and produce really, really great products. I think there's something about the environment here that's conducive to making those kind of brands and those kind of products.
I can't wait to smoke some VT weed. Because frankly, I have no idea. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, we've been having these events over at our venue where we've had some incredible shows where we had our farmers night the other night and had a reggae show, and we had about 10 different farmers there just showcasing their goods, and the quality is just amazing. I mean, I've been to quite a few dispensaries around the country, and I would put that next to anything, California, bring it on.
What's
I think Vermont is really
now I'm really intrigued. What's the vending scenario? Because in Cali it sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm like, why can't I just sell you 8 ounces? So what is it?
Yeah, I mean, no, we can't do too much. Honestly, we're doing some things to introduce farmers to the community, and we have some events. We haven't been able to do.
I mean, is there a distro system? Do you have to have have they written those ends of the regs beyond
in terms of the regs? Yeah, it's not too onerous right now. I think the state has been really trying to make this fairly low barrier to entry, because they know if they make it too complicated, very quickly all these the legacy farmers are not going to participate. So
it's so surprising to me, Noah, that they give honestly,
yeah.
I'm a New Yorker. I am cynical, like in regards to that thing I've seen. Well, you fool me once, shame on me, on you. But like, I've seen this 14 times, like no exaggeration, like one after the other, which is another reason I hone in so much on the East Coast, is because like I got to do what I can, like, which is not much as one person, to make. We have all these examples of what not to do. Let's make sure that doesn't happen type scenario. So hell, it would be fabulous if Vermont had had some regulators that really cared about the old black market growers. That said,
they just, for example, like, the control board, was struggling to get the licenses out for outdoor growers. And a lot of growers were like, well, I threw in my plants and I applied for the license. So my plants were in the ground. So, and so technically, and there's people still waiting for those licenses. The control board just said, well, you know what? We're not going to penalize you at all if you had your plants in the ground. As long as you get your license, we'll just grandfather that in. So they're like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's like, why aren't there articles about that? Like, post this. Can you send me something? That is actually amazing. That's like,
and they're like out here listening. Like, we had that farmers night, reggae show, and one of the control board members came and like was talking to the farmers and like hanging out with us and like just like listening. Like it is a unique environment. Like, they're really
weed, puffing down. What was he smoking?
not puffing down with us, but like,
what was it? I was kidding. CBD flower. But well, actually, we shouldn't have done that. That's to say, so cannabis. What is the state of cannabis legally and medically right now? What was it? It was medical long time ago. Like, not long, but
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we've had a medical program for many years. I think we were one of the first. It's like
one of the first.
It's been a sort of a long, slow process to get to legal rec cannabis. And, we got a lot of legislators that are from small towns and, like,
there's a puritanical vibe. No offense, but this is a reality. I went to school like there. I mean, like, New England has a puritanical roots. Like,
yeah,
that's an engage. The United States does, meaning there's like we had 100 years or so of prohibition, zero science. We have a lot of work to do in terms of stigma breaking, for sure. So currently, what's the rec status? Like, how much weed can I buy from you when I,
currently? Yeah. I mean, currently nothing until October 1st.
Well, but like, so that's, well, of course, fast forward October 1st, right, and you grew some banging gas. How much can I walk in and buy per, I'm not a state resident.
Yeah, I believe, there's still, I don't know if it's fully finalized yet. I think they still have to release the retail regs.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be like your, 1 ounce, I believe. And then, 50 milligram, they're doing some, maybe it's 100 milligram per package of edibles.
I'm sure it'll be 100. I'm sure it'll copy the
controversial things they did was they put a cap on THC concentration for concentrates. So that's like a 60%.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's like
I'm not speaking for a cannabis user, like a hash head in that sense. Yeah. I mean, like, that's objectively insane.
Yeah, I think the whole community's been working on that. It was a knee-jerk kind of reaction.
Not education, like lack of education on the concept.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly the backstory, but I think there were some advocacy groups that claimed that there was some, if this got in the hands of kids and they were, had.
If 60% rosin gets in if rosin with concentration of 60% gets in the hands of anyone, they're fucked up. So I don't understand that for the life of me. That sounds actually less like corruption, more just like not knowing what the hell they're talking about, which again is not a diss on Vermont. No, Jake's hot take, not RMR. Politicians are full of it. But that said, I'm freaking crazy impressed by that first part you told me, and much more surprised and curious and like, I don't get it.
This session will definitely be pushing to get that removed. I mean, I think,
when's the next meeting, town or committee, public or what's public comment?
Well, the control board, I don't think has it. They didn't recommend doing this. This was a legislative issue, as far as I understand. So,
Interesting.
this would have to come up in the legislature next session. So there was a lot of effort to try to remove the caps, and it stayed in there.
Well, but
So it's
it's
like,
so bizarre. It actually objectively is.
yeah, no, it's a unique. I don't know that any other states are doing this. It's like,
No.
it's one of these things, like, on one hand we're so progressive, and then we do things that are like
Yeah,
that.
no, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is like Vermont's super blue, but like there's some 100%. I'm with you. I want to ask you, Noah, man, like, and sorry for getting into the minutia on you. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is what I do. I love it. It's exciting, and I love Vermont. Remember those stickers, bumper stickers? I love them. Like ILOVERMONT.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm dating myself here. So, what's the big picture beyond just beyond the education piece, beyond having a dispensary? What's the 10-year? Everything goes well, we're living in a vacuum, pretend. What do you expect to? What do you hope to be? What do you want to be beyond the education that you've already explained very well?
Yeah. I think for us, we want to build something. We want to build a real social impact kind of brand in New England. I think we want to take the craft quality of Vermont and the real, like, social mission and the environmental mission that we stand for,
That
and
ethos.
really bring that into our region.
Yeah.
I think we want to, like, start to make, and we want to bring a lot of people along with us, so that we're building a real community and a group of entrepreneurs who are developing businesses that really stand for something, and stand for a completely new way of doing business, because we really believe that the cannabis industry has to be completely different in every way than most industries are. From the way that we, like, have our meetings, to the way that we, like, work with our customers. Like, it needs to be much more inclusive and lead towards, like, clear outcomes in terms of, like, building communities that are more sustainable and stronger and together. So we do think we can, like, create a model here in Vermont, and then, like, start to bridge out into the rest of New England, because we are small, but we're like this little petri dish. We can experiment and create something that really works, and then move from there.
So I love it, and I think what I heard from there, which is fascinating, is and I think it's crazy how you have the ability to have that Vermont nice. Like I would have said it what did you just say about in terms of would you go back? I apologize to what you had just said right before.
About, like, building, like, a social impact kind of brand, and, like,
Yeah.
throughout. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was right before that, or right after that. Hold on. And this is the weed people, but for real, do you remember? Like you're talking about.
Let's see, and, like, bring people. Now I'm forgetting what I said, but, like, I talked about, like, coming from Vermont, developing a model, and, like, moving out through New England and bringing our kind of model of, like, craft scale, high quality cannabis products with a mission to the rest of the industry, to try to transform, business as usual, really.
I know what it was. Oh my God. Yes, exactly. Transform business as usual, because people in cannabis have a unique way of doing things. Couldn't agree more. I would have said it in a much less polite way. All my clients says, come correct. Don't
Right.
show up in sweatpants to the town meeting. Like, be you, do your thing, but like adapt and be ready to play ball and come onto this, meet them at their level, because that's what we want to do, is progress this industry, not make.
No, we got to be real, and we got to make real businesses, and we're prepared to do that. But, like, some of my hero businesses were, like, some of the Vermont businesses that grew to be national brands, like Ben and Jerry's. They started out running a VW bus around the country and breaking down and handing out free ice cream, and running big festivals like the One World, One Heart Festival, like amazing things happening.
Well, they're an epic example, but even small ones like Long Trail Brewery, they're everywhere. So I love it. I love the application, and man, that's fabulous. And really, I guess I kind of need you to end with, is the vision with the music and the venue as well. I like that eventually if they could play together in some way. Is that what you're envisioning?
Absolutely. Yeah. So artists are a huge part of what motivates us to keep doing this business and music. And I think they also have been a huge part of like destigmatizing the plant and teaching people about the plant, and should continue to be. So we're actually looking at a lot of collaborations with artists that have played our venue and that are coming to play our venue in the future, and like creating products that like feature
For
songs
sure.
and music and
Yeah, yeah.
inspiration.
And you're right. You
So
can't tease the two out. The streets and sounds and and weed is just, that's absolutely the case. What about consumption though? Like that would be dope to do, but like, can I let a spliff up in there? Have they even gotten
right.
close to those regs
Yeah,
yet? Yeah.
not yet. I think it's coming in the future, but in the meantime, what you can do and what we're going to kind of curate for people is like an experience where you can like put on some headphones, QR code, download a song that was made for you to match with the strain, so that we can hear some music and like have that kind of experience. Ideally, we'd be together in community doing that. And there's some like little events we can do off in farms and far off places in Vermont.
Yeah,
But
I was, my
a
suggestion was,
mainstream venue, you can't do that right
um,
now.
meaning like I don't see why you couldn't have a party at someone's house and
Yeah,
have a band playing. But so you right, is smoking we cigarettes, anything, is smoking indoors allowed in Vermont if it's a private
no,
venue,
no.
even if it's a private venue?
Well, there's some gray areas, you could find, but it's pretty much not allowed any kind of, I mean, a private house kind of venue, like
Private
maybe
of a private of and
not a, if it's a
a
private
venue
event, really, then yeah,
owned,
there's a possibility.
exactly. My thought is this: do we do? I've done this in almost every other state. You should do it sooner than later. Have you're not supplying anything. You're just having a concert like you do.
Right.
Come on down. That's what I
Yeah.
think. I really,
Yeah,
I get
there's been a fair amount of events like that, like, certain places where, it's just a private event and we're able
yeah.
to make that experience happen. And that's great, and I do think that we found like, consumption of cannabis, like it's a lot easier to manage than, we run
How
a busy bar, and it's people start
that's
drinking,
the
it's a
kicker,
lot
man.
harder to manage.
That's the kicker. Like I have a thing at every cannabis event, whether it's Harvest Ball or Emerald Cup or Trans Bay. I always ask a security guard or someone at the not a security guard, someone at the medical tent, say, "Hey, how many cannabis have you worked?" And they say, "Oh, a few." Usually, say, "How many issues have you ever had?" And have you ever had any, like, what's the worst thing that's ever happened? Yeah, nothing. And so I guess what I mean is, yeah, and in fact, that's probably going to be the thing that keeps Vermont from being able to, or I don't believe they're going to let liquor licenses intertwine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So, but hell yeah, man, that's going to be great. Let's quickly run down. So it's Zenbarn. What's the domain? Like, what's the website? If there is one, we'll definitely give them the
Yeah.
inst.
Yeah, so we're zenbarnfarms.com is our cannabis side, and then zenbarnvt.com is the music venue and
Okay.
private events venue. There's an Airbnb, you can stay there. We got lots of lineup
So
of
people
shows
should
coming.
go to that site, go to your site and
Yeah,
check it all out. Hell yes,
yeah,
I'm going to in a
yeah,
second. So that, and then there's IGs. That's what we got to cover too.
absolutely. Yeah.
I think we
And we
got.
do also have this GoFundMe up there for the cannabis generation. So we're trying to
Oh,
raise some
let's
money.
please talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to raise money to get a crew of interns in, who will be given a fully paid internship. We're going to recruit BIPOC interns, and they're going to come to Vermont. They're going to learn all aspects seed to sale, and they'll come out of a 6-week program ready to get a good job in the industry. And if they want to go beyond that, start their own business, there'll be resources for that too. So we're really excited about that. We have, the industry is supporting it. We have growers, we have marketing people, manufacturers, retailers, all ready to like lend a hand to help train this group, and interested people. So we're just trying to raise a little money for that. And that's
Yeah.
a
That's on
link.
That's GoFundMe.
Yeah, yeah. It's called the Cannabis Generation.
I
on
wish we
GoFundMe.
could put it up in the we'll see if we can do that in post for sure. That would be really great to have it up there. But so it's say it again extremely articulately, and I'm not going to speak.
Yes, it's the cannabis generation. I think the GoFundMe is called Building the Cannabis Generation. It's about building really generational wealth, rebuilding generational wealth in communities that were most impacted by the war on drugs, and creating opportunities for people to really get into this industry in a real way.
Is the link? Can people find the link on the Instagram or the website?
Yeah, they can link through there too.
So just in case y'all forget, like you, okay, cool, sick. I love that, man. It's a super noble cause, and I cannot wait to smoke some Vermont weed.
Yeah, we got you anytime.
Well, October 1st.
Yes.
That's the grand opening, right? So please let us know. Let's, anyone who's interested in knowing more, hit me, hit RMR, hit Noah, please. Dude, it's such a pleasure, man. I love to talk to people from different places, and it's a total vibe. And maybe that CBD flower, maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah, it's not bad. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, we'll do it again then, man. Have a good day, my friend.